Richard Bandler, one of the co-developers of NLP, is truly a genius at continually developing newer and faster ways of achieving personal change. In recent years, Richard's been developing the area of submodalities. By this I mean the smaller elements within the visual, the auditory, and the kinesthetic modality. This videotape was edited from a 4-day advanced training that Richard taught in Boulder, Colorado, March of 1987. All the participants have had a 12-day advanced submodality training as well as an NLP practitioner training. Since Richard assumes this considerable background, he does use some words and some concepts that may not be familiar to someone without that background. Since Richard always non-verbally demonstrates what he's teaching while he's teaching, as well as incorporates other NLP methods, the videotape offers information at many levels simultaneously. The beginning NLPer can enjoy learning the particular pattern or method being taught, while someone with more advanced background can learn at multiple and deeper levels, particularly with repeated viewings.
Now, what these 2 pages are syntactic environments for presuppositions. And since I know all of you have already studied presuppositions in your practitioner courses and things, and understand them well, that I'm not going to spend a lot of time dwelling upon on building them, because what I'm going to want you to do is to use this just as a guide. That if you look and choose out of here some of the particular kinds of presuppositions that what they give you. For example, if you take something like comparatives. Comparatives are words like you know, when you have a word like the example here, it says, if her daughter is as funny as her husband is, we'll all enjoy ourselves. The presupposition is her husband is funny. Say, if you make this change as fast as the last one, right, always presupposes the last one went quickly. Now, what I'm going to want you to do is I want you to get into groups of 3, and what you're going to do is the following. Is one person, we'll call them person A, okay? Person A, and then 2 of you will be person B. You know, each of both of you. Now, what you're going to do is I want you to go through and do some experimentation. And there's going to be 2 jobs to do while you do this. One is I want you to begin to notice that as submodalities change, and what's going to happen is person A is going to tell you, state something that constitutes some kind of a limitation for them, whatever it happens to be. Some of you may have been doing this so long you'll have to make one up. It doesn't even matter if you do that. You know, it's like, you know, I don't have enough time to be in nearly as much ecstasy as I want. You know. Now, the job, okay, at that point in time, is for the other 2 of you to figure out a sentence which presupposes that this is no longer the case. In other words, something, you know, for example, if you use temporal, you know, if you go, you know, you can say, gee, isn't it terrible that you used to not have as much ecstasy as you want? Now, the presupposition is that this is a past tense problem. Now, that the presuppositions themselves, that when you want to build a presupposition, that basically that there's a little trick to doing it. That you start in your mind by just blatantly telling yourself what the presupposition is, and then figure out something else that one of these environments, and you can go through and pick an environment. For example, as soon as you know, like, see, you can tell in parentheses it says what the presuppositions are. So if you take like generic noun phrases, there are wombats, right? Then what you do is you turn the phrase that you want. For example, the presupposition is that you're having enough time to have as much ecstasy as you want, right? You know, so you take the presupposition, there is enough time for ecstasy, you know, and you know, when you start asking questions like, you know, what will you do with the spare time now that you have enough time to have as much ecstasy as you would like? Now, the thing is that what I want you to do is I want you to make up in your mind a presupposition that presupposes that the limitation is past. But the first thing I want you to do is to, when the person tells you whatever the limitation is, okay, I want you to notice very carefully where they focus their eyes. Again, this is a representation. You might want to have them tell you twice. Might even want to ask them a couple questions about it. But basically what you want to do is to realize what kind of a representation. For example, when people look at a limitation, right, you know, do their eyes focus to the right or the left, straight ahead? That what you want to find out is enough. You want to see how much you can discern initially before they start telling you the submodalities of the limitation. Then what you want to do is what you do is you ask them to see if they can try and keep it the same. Presupposing, of course, that they won't. One of my favorite presuppositions in here, you know. And if, you know, I always like to tell people to try in vain to stay the same. That always adds a little juice to it. Now, then what I want you to do is I want you, each of the other two people, to take turns. What I want you to do is to fire your presupposition at them and find out what happens. Because, see, in order to understand language, you have to make all the same kinds of shifts that we're doing artificially here. When somebody comes in and says, well, you know, I haven't got the confidence to go and ask so-and-so for a date. And I say to them, God, that's a terrible problem, wasn't it? Now, in order to just compute the language, when they go, it's a terrible problem, they focus on the problem. And in order for it to be past tense, something has to change. For example, if you stop and think about something that you want to be the case and something that has happened in the past, you'll notice there's a difference. Take a minute and do it. Notice, think of something that you really want to happen that hasn't happened yet, right? Then compare it with something that's past tense. Are they different? Of course, how would you know it hadn't happened yet if you didn't have a way of telling the difference, right? See, I mean, subjectively, you have to have some way of knowing what's in your past and what you want to be in your future. So when you use temporal predicates, what you're going to find out is that as you begin to fire temporal predicates, these changes occur. Now, as you use things with presuppositions are very powerful. That as you use one and then the other person uses a different syntactic environment. The reason I gave you a list is so that you both wouldn't use the same. When you sit next to your person before you speak, you point to one and they will point to one. If your fingers are on the same one of you has to change. Okay? And I'll let the difficulty of who that is be a choice. Now, the thing is like, you know, that when you say, when you use some of these, you know, give yourself a chance enough that when you figure out what you want to presuppose, go through and like try a couple of them inside your mind. You can even talk to the other person. Not the person that that's gonna be listening to it. If the other two of you want to turn around and come up with some good examples, but then turn around and say the presupposition. Now, you can do it, you can say it once, more than once. Notice if you can see visually yourselves what the changes are. Because, in other words, you know, you can tell distance, people will move back. You know, for example, there's a real difference. For example, when you take images, like if you take an image of something, take an image of something that you really want to be the case, right? Now, pull the image towards you, okay? Pull it up real close, all right? Now go back and put it where it was, all right? Now, in your mind, move towards it. Instead of pulling the image to you, you move towards the image. Different. Gets bigger.
As you move away.
Yes. Okay. In your case, I believe it. Now, the thing that you can do is that after you use the presupposition, and with each person, I want you to go through and not just try one or two, try a couple of different ones to see if you can find which presuppositions will, number one, affect the person more. Now, the thing is that you will find that some of these in here are not going to be real applicable for some statements, you know. So don't just try and do one because you look at it. Like, try it, and if it seems like it's real difficult to turn it into what you need, move down one, okay? I mean, this doesn't have to be something that's hard. And use ones that are pretty direct and state them as commands. That, you know, when I tell somebody that's a terrible problem, wasn't it? Again, I use the lowering of the voice tone at the end and lowering of the eyebrows, something that a couple of you are having trouble with. Then what you want to do is, after you do it, go back and ask the person, have them pay attention to what goes on and report to you and find out if it matches what you were doing. Okay? Now, do you have any questions about this? Okay. What I'm going to do is I want to do it this way. I want to give you 10 minutes to sit down as a group, okay, all three of you, and make up some presuppositions. Make up one problem sentence and just make up some between each other so that you get a little practice doing that. Yes, ma'am?
Could you do a demonstration?
I've been demonstrating for 3 days. It's not going to help you if I demonstrate. I'll demonstrate afterwards. It will help you.
Okay.
I mean, the thing is that I've been using presuppositions in all my speech, right? Showing you how to construct one, I spent, 6 months making this. Now, the thing is all you have to do is change the words in the sentence so that they fit the problems. And start at the bottom where the arrow is so that you know what you want to presuppose. Even though it's a somewhat strenuous and artificial to do it the way I'm asking you to do, sit down, make up some presuppositions, and then find out what impact they have. Now, again, pay attention to tempo. The tempo with which you speak these things is important. Use a driving tempo, because when you're using presuppositions to influence these things, it's like when you're asking somebody, see, I presuppose in my language that people are going to be able to bring things into consciousness, and that a lot of people, when they have trouble eliciting a submodality, like in the last exercise, somebody was saying, well, it just happens, right? And I said, well, as you notice what happens just before that, tell me what it is. Now, the thing is they go, psh, because in order to understand the sentence, they have to accept the presupposition that they are going to notice what it is. And it drives things from the unconscious to the conscious in the process of elicitation. Now, this is one of those exercises where I want you to go back to remember the thing about making things easy, right? Don't forget it. Remember it now. And as you remember to put yourself in that state, this is something you can enjoy. Now, for those of you who don't have a lot of background in linguistics, it will just be easier. Now, the only thing is remember that on these things, you want to start for yourself with where the arrow is, what you want to presuppose. And, and if you look at something like, I saw him leave, there exists a him, right? Now, if you're going to put into a thing that's something changed, right, you're not going to be using a pronoun. So that's not a good one to mess around with. You'll find that if you get down here into the ones that start between complete presuppositions and beyond, so if you kind of start down at the second set of A, it'll be easier. Also, you can use the quantifiers and time quantifiers. Negative questions are always good, rhetorical questions. And of course, I would think state of time verbs and state of change verbs might be ones you would look at. Universal quantifiers, are also extremely powerful in that you can go, for example, when you go, each time you notice the new changes in your voice, you'll be impressed. Now, don't worry about if you find yourself doing 2 of them at the same time, because a lot of times you'll be using more than one syntactic environment. Just worry about getting the syntactic environment so that you have yourself presuppositions and find out how it influences the internal structures. Now, I'll give you about 5-10 minutes to just try some as a group of 3, just talk to each other, and then go ahead and do the exercise, and just take 5 minutes apiece. This is not a thing where what my expectation is that you're just going to go and succeed at it. All I want you to do in this, there's nothing to accomplish. This is where we start noticing. What distinguishes the people that I consider to be good at the kind of work that I do from those who remain fairly quasi at it has a lot to do with being able to be in the state of being fascinated and noticing. Say, instead of like, somebody came up to me, as they have repeatedly through the exercise and said, well, what are we supposed to do with this? Well, the answer is just enjoy it while it's going on. That's it. Okay? We'll get, it's just like the first day we went through all of those steps to tie those pieces together. This is just a step. It's, if you remember the thing about, making your hand sweat and making your hand warm, somebody said, well, what good is that? Okay, well, there's a lot of uses for it, but this is just one piece. All I want you to do is to enjoy it, make up the presuppositions, ask questions, and find out and have the person report to you what kinds of changes occur, so that you notice things about how the submodalities themselves are changed just by language. Say, and then you'll never guess what the next thing we're going to do is. Hypnosis. That's a hint. Okay, go ahead. I wonder whether or not you realize how you're increasing the rate at which you're making decisions. That's the Spiritus Knot, one of my favorite ones. What?
That works. That works.
Spiritus Knot is a really good one for that. Spiritus Knot. It's the one. I wonder if you're not being a little bit unfair. That's the one down there. You can just stack it with another one a little bit. Oh, that's more comfortable. Okay. Why don't you come on back up here for a minute? See if we can play with these things a little bit. Which thing did it change, by the way? When you said that changes it, what changed?
That changed the whole experience of what I had in my mind.
Yeah.
I can't use some modalities right now. Just too quick.
I'm wondering whether or not you realize how quickly you'll be giving me those submodalities. Now. Okay, but you didn't realize some things, like, for example, it changed position.
Yes, it did.
Yeah, I mean, okay. The thing is that like when I used the Spiritus Knot, okay, what happened was is that, so what was the sentence you told me? I forgot already.
I did too. It worked. I take too long
Help.
to make decisions.
You took too long to make decisions. Okay. So I like it when they freeze their face and try and hold the submodalities. If I hold my breath and freeze my face, I can hold on to it. Okay. Now, when I use the Spiritus Knot, okay, one of the things that happened is I mean, the image, I wonder whether or not, you realized, boom, it went to the other side. Now, the thing that I wanted you to concentrate on the exercises is it would give you a little experience in constructing presuppositions. And, it's always a good idea. For example, I decided to give you homework tonight, right? Right. Okay, wait till you find out what it is, though. So it might be wonderful, but that's the second half of it. The first thing I want you to do is that I'm going to have you go through and write out, and I want you to write 3 presuppositions, okay, to pick something which constitutes, first pick something that's a common limitation that you hear, kind of thing you hear from people all the time, It's, it's that kind of stuff that, people go, like, I get anxious when I'm going to go and meet somebody or talk in front of a group, or just pick a common one. And then I want you to pick 3 presuppositions, in other words, so that you can, like, make a paragraph where each of the sentences in the paragraph presuppose that that is not the case, but yet it sounds like the 3 sentences kind of cruise together, but they all presuppose it. Now, the nice thing about stacking presuppositions is that if you give yourself a little practice, and at first, I used to sit there with my clients, and one of the things that we're going to do a little thing with hypnosis here, a little trance work, give you a chance to digest your food here. But one of the things I used to do with clients is, I used to literally, I always had reinduction signals, and that's basically you use the post-hypnotic suggestion strategy that people have, so that you have a thing where you can reach over and just touch them and they go. and they go into a deep trance. Because once you put somebody in a very deep trance, there's no point in doing an induction over again. I mean, you know, you just anchor the state. Give them a post-hypnotic suggestion. When I touch you on the knee, you'll drop back into a deep trance. Then I'd have them drop into a trance and see their favorite movie. And I'd pull out a pad and a paper, and I'd sit down and I'd write out what I was going to do. So that when you know, I had people where I was, you know, doing things, because a lot of people think that, you know, when you're working with clients that you don't have time, that for some reason you can't stop and plan what you're doing. Now, especially your clients have a tendency to feel this way, as if you shouldn't stop and take whatever planning and thought it takes for you to do the best job you can do. And I mean, that's ridiculous. And so for a while I used to get up and leave the room, and then finally I thought, why should I leave the room? It's my room. You know? And, you know, I don't want to send them out in the other room because that's my room too. So I thought, we'll just have their conscious mind leave the room. Makes it easier, and might as well entertain them in the meanwhile, you know. So what I thought we would do is that most of you in here have been in a trance, whether you know it or not. Now, what I would like you to do, isn't scope ambiguity wonderful? It's one of my favorite patterns, or not. Now that you're beginning to notice, do you realize why I had you do this now? Is what I wanted you to do is to get in a state where you would notice these changes, as much as the presuppositions. How many of you in here have done official trance work, meditation, or other forms of zoning yourself out? Okay, if you haven't done like official hypnosis, right, don't worry about it. It's no big thing. It's the same thing you do that, you know, when you meditate. It's the stuff you do. Have you ever been reading a book and you notice you haven't been turning the pages? Right? Some guy ever behind you ever honked at the stoplight, you know, right, and you came back to life? Or been driving down the freeway and suddenly you're 90 miles down the road and you really haven't been driving? Okay. The thing is that the kinds of things that you can do with hypnosis are, you know, I mean, people always tell me, oh, hypnosis, you're out of control. Yeah, you can control your heart rate, your blood pressure. That's being out of control. Sign me up, you know. And don't bother me. I mean, you know, most of the people I know, the problem would be to get them out of the trance, not into one. You know, and when it comes to people controlling one another, it's much easier to control them in the waking state. Believe me. You get people to do anything in the waking state. It's not an issue of control. And also, you know, when you go into trance, it doesn't mean that you can't hear what's going on around you. You know, when you stop seeing things and hearing things and being aware of your body, that one's called death, right? You can go to channelers for that stuff, you know. They'll tell you all about it. But, I mean, you know, apparently it's not death according to them. These people, you know, they were talking to people from foreign planets, all enlightened, all-knowing beings that have to talk through channelers. What's the matter? They haven't got a phone? I mean, it's, you know, this is always one of the kinds of things that have bothered me, like, you know, why aren't there electric lights in the pyramids? You know, where's the television? You know, I mean, it's, you know, it's like, they take all that stuff with them when they left? You know, could be, but I mean, to me, the thing is, you know, I want to know where are the little marks in the plush carpet where the bed was, you know, not the stone, dirty old stone. I mean, they didn't sleep, maybe they knew how to levitate, but I mean, you know, if they had to do everything mentally, you know, it's like you didn't ever get a day off. And I mean, if they want to talk to me, I don't think that those are the correct people to communicate with. I found out also from, there's a thing out called The Reporter, like reporter. And this is a new journal that's out that combines channeling with NLP. Well, natural combination, you know. You know, one talks to dead people and one tries to make dead people live. You know, but anyway, there are people who are channeling dolphins. And I thought, you know, if I wanted to make, you know, decisions about my financial future and so on and so forth, the first person I'd ask would be a dolphin. Wouldn't you? I mean, you know. Yeah, I mean, if I wanted to know something about the ocean, I might want to talk to a dolphin. But, you know, it was a terrible thing. We forgot to ask whether it was dead dolphins or live dolphins. There's some good ones out there. Now, if you think those people are in a trance, that's a sideways trance. The trance that, yeah, well, there are a lot of sideways trances, you know. Sideways trances are where you take your, where, as someone just recently put it, a person who otherwise has fairly good, sense, it seems like a normal human being, invests time and energy in going completely sideways. Pretty soon, as what we need here is pretty soon what we're going to have is people who can do, that will just channel NLP and do NLP just on dead people. I get a kick out of these channelers. We were talking to these some people who are into channeling, and I didn't know what it was. And when I found out that what they were talking about here, and I looked at this guy and I said, you mean you're talking about talking to dead people? And the guy said, well, we prefer to refer to them as disembodied spirits. And I said, fuck that shit, they're dead people, and I ain't talking to no dead people. That's too spooky. Huh? He looked at me like I had a problem. Oh yeah, I said, oh yeah, that's just really, how I want to spend my time. I've been trying to get people to be more alive throughout my career. I don't want to go back and take the ones that are a total loss, I said, maybe when they can bring them back to life, and we can pick and choose, but, this, and I, it's like, when you ask these, because we were talking to somebody last night at dinner who went to a lot of this channeling stuff and some odd and sundry other things, and I mean that that's one of these people that goes to everything. It's a hobby. It's part of they're the it's the waves of the human potential movement, the ones that are sort of lapping up on the side, and they get into some real, this one went to a psychic surgeon, right? These are the people that squirt chicken blood out of their thumb or something and tell you it's yours. And I love the comment that she made, she went and this guy was going to clean out this chakra on her head, and did this thing where he pulled these chicken guts right out of her forehead. And she looked up and saw this stuff coming out, and she said the guy's sleight of hand was incredibly good. But I mean, the one thing is that, there isn't anything like that up there, And she said, if I paid this amount of money, to have somebody pull chicken guts out of my head, I must have chicken guts for brains. I thought that was beautifully put. Oh yeah, she had perused. She got into some other thing called an airplane, where everybody puts up all these money. $1,500 goes to all that stuff. Only thing is her plane crashed. And she said, I didn't think that came in the introductory lecture when she was at the airport hotel. They told you all the ways you could make money, but they didn't tell you, that, there could be unscheduled water landings, as the airlines put it. When, you take somebody that's, really got things on the ball, and, they decide that that the thing to do is to dress in orange and give all of their money to somebody from India, right? And march around with M16s in, a really troubled place like Oregon. I consider this to be a real step sideways. It's one giant leap sideways, actually. And to feel real proud of the person that you gave your money to having 90 Rolls Royces. Right? Now, I should have people like that, It's like, you can be happy if you let me spend your money. That's it. If you give me all your money and I spend it and have opulent time, you can identify with me. I want you to realize that. Wouldn't that be wonderful? And yeah, I notice not too many of you are nodding yes. It's people going, say what? That's it. I mean, it's a good concept, except not everybody gets to go at the same time. So I'm going to sacrifice myself. Now, what I want you to do is to close your eyes, and I want you to make a picture of yourself sitting where you're sitting. And what I want you to do is to look at that image, take a deep breath, and as you do so, what I want you to do is to very slowly put your hands onto your thighs so that they lay flat on your thigh. And watch that image. Hold the image and look at the image. And very slowly, as humanly possible, I want you to begin to lift one hand voluntarily. so that you can feel the movement, but I want you to do it ever so slowly. And as you lift that hand and feel the pressure, the sensitivity, the slight movements of the neurons, what I want you to do is I want you also to begin to do something. I want you to take the image where you see yourself and move it away from you and have it get larger. Very slowly, at the same rate you move your hand, move the image away from you, have it increase. What I want you to do, if you have internal dialogue, if you're talking to yourself, is to continue to do so, but slow down the rate at which you do it, lower the tone internally, and move the location of your internal dialogue off at the same distance as the image, and continue to move it. Now, as that image moves away from you, I want you to notice any changes in your physical state. Because what I want you to do is to learn, really learn, about going into a trance. But I want this time for you to be your own teacher. Now, I want you to notice if as you move this image away from you, if it makes you feel more relaxed. See, trance has the unusual characteristic of allowing you to float down, that you feel waves of relaxation, and you may float back up slightly. But as you do so, I want you to try things like take for yourself the brightness of your image and change that brightness so that it gets darker and then it gets larger, or lighter, excuse me, and notice which one of those things has a tendency to make your trance feel slightly deeper. I want you to take a deep breath and begin to increase the volume of whatever you hear or decrease the volume, and notice whether or not it deepens your trance. I want you to try changing the size of that image. And notice if as the size of the image gets bigger or smaller, it deepens your trance. I want you to try expanding your image out panoramic, bringing it down so that it's ever so small, and notice whether or not you feel more relaxed. The task here is to notice what affects you as an individual. Try taking the image in front of you and tilting the angle of it so that it tilts away at a 45-degree angle or tilts towards you at a 45-degree angle. And notice how it makes you feel more relaxed in one position as opposed to another. That's right. Now, I want you also, for example, to change the location of where you hear the sound from. As it moves further in front of you, to the left, or to the right. As it moves around, perhaps the images and the sound will move around you, all the way behind you, above you, below you. As you move it only in the direction that allows you to feel more relaxed. What you're doing here is learning. Learning about altering your own state of consciousness. Now, you can allow that hand to go down at your own rate and enjoy the comfort and the feeling of knowing that as you take the images, move them back around so you can see them, change the contrast, the graininess of the image, that each of those particular submodalities that you know about and have worked with in any way, in any of these exercises, will also affect, because the exercise that you're about to do is one where you sit down with each other and find out exactly which ones induce a deeper state of relaxation than you're normally in. See, the purpose of this is not primarily to make it so that you can go into a deep trance, perhaps deeper than you've ever been in. That's only one of the byproducts. The byproduct is that many people that I know, whatever state, whether it's ecstasy, lust, deep trance, being able to concentrate, being motivated to work, whatever it is, that the state that they have now is not as intense as it will be when you learn to take the submodalities and now modify it. You see, as you did something in the last exercise, when somebody presupposed something to you, it radically was allowed you to change your state to something that was profoundly different. What you're going to be looking for in the next exercise is a vehicle that will allow you to change your state such that you can rapidly and quickly go into a deep trance. The skill that you will be acquiring, however, is much more important, and that will be what you remember the most. What you will remember is, as you find certain combinations of these submodalities, certain sets of them allow you to go rapidly and deeply into trance, they will be the same ones that by reversing them will allow you to rapidly become wide awake and alert. Now, slowly allow your eyes to open, and in this state, I want you to go and find yourself a partner and to enjoy the following process. What I want you to do is to sit down and take that list of submodalities in your mind, all the ones that you've worked with, and to go through, and I want you literally to have the person make a picture in which they see themselves going into a trance, and I want you to try changing submodalities in pairs, not singles. I just went through single ones. But what you will discover is that when you change two of them, there will be combinations. Now, it means that you may try distance and location, distance and size, distance and color. Now, you may try things like, for example, you may try things like increasing the volume and having it be proportionately different to the distance. So as the sound gets louder, it goes away, or as it gets quieter, picture comes closer. Now, whatever combinations you pick, try to come up with some that you have. Try ones that you noticed in the exercises where you were finding pairs, but also try ones that did not seem to occur. Remember, we're going for an altered state this time. And all you have in the image is a picture of themselves going into trance. Now, I don't in particular want you to do anything in trance, except just for the hell of it. At a certain point, I'd like you to reach over, pick up their left hand, and tell them that you're going to lift up their arm and not going to tell them to put it down any faster than they continue to go into a deep trance. And any other set of presuppositions. Now, when you do that, the one thing is that they will be able to report to you how using, and give them a post-hypnotic suggestion that they will remember this too. That helps people who are in trance. And when you bring them back out, right, after you do this, let their hand go down, bring them back out, just tell them, you know, to take their time and come back, and almost wide awake and alert, and to report to you and tell you that when you used presuppositions that they were going into a deeper trance, which things changed in the image. See, then they can kind of tell you what works. Okay, does that make sense? That doesn't make sense, ma'am. Okay, that when you use you put somebody in an altered state, okay, first you're going through and finding out which things deepen that state. Does that part make sense? Then at a certain, after you've been doing that and they kind of get into a deep state, you reach over and lift up their left arm. Got that part? Okay. Tell them you're not going to let them put it down. You don't want them to put it down any faster than they allow themselves to drop into a deep trance. You see, that presupposes that they're going there. Now, then as you let go of their arm and it goes down, what you're going to do is then, you can continue to talk to them in whatever way, whatever you know about using, continuing to use presuppositions that they're going into a deep trance. Then when you stop and you bring them out, ask them to report to you what in this image changed when you used presuppositions. Because when you use the presuppositions and that somebody is going into a deep trance, then the same thing is going to happen is submodalities will change, and they will change in combinations. And those will be the things that will work the best with that person. If they know those and they want to do self-hypnosis, all they'll have to do is sit down and go, and it will take them there. Okay? Why don't you go and do it? Take about 15 minutes apiece, something like that, somewhere in that neighborhood. Okay?
Like, I've got people sitting down, you know, you ever seen the Doctor Who, the beginning of the Doctor Who show?
Yeah, many times.
Yeah. You know, you
Yeah.
get somebody to sit them down, you have them do that for a while.
Oh, yeah.
You go right away.
Beginning of the Doctor Who.
Well, you just say, well, take some images, put them like, you know, you've gone down a street, a real long street, so that the perspective kind of closes way,
Right.
and then start going down that street at a faster speed, and it's an infinite street.
Like 2001,
Yeah.
shooting into the light rays.
Yeah, what I like is like what you do is you build yourself an image that has the perspective the way a street is. Only what you do is you take an image of yourself sitting there going into a trance, right? But then out of the center, the very farthest point where, you know, it's just like that, so it's kind of like a cone going down. What you do is have another image come out slowly and open up where you look like you're going deeper, right? And then another one around it, and then another one around it, and then start speeding them up. Each one where you look like you're going deeper. You want to keep doing it.
Because I'll be gone in a minute.
You look like you were doing just fine. And you start speeding that one up, and you know, and then you know, just yeah. Oh, you get that one cooking, it'll take you right away.
So a lot of it's with the image of yourself then, because I was playing without the...
Well, it's not necessary. I like to do it. I like to stack everything on top of everything, you know, right? You know, I like to put in, you know, I get people to have a tape loop with it too of their, just, you know, a tape loop of their own voice going, God, this feels great. This feels wonderful. This is ecstatic, you know, just keep running that with each one of those images. Put that tape loop, and people go, you know, by adding, you know, see, a lot of times when people start doing things like with trance work, like they have a dialogue that will comment on it, and they scare themselves with it. They go, you know, they'll go, God, this is happening too fast, you know, and they start trying to back off. And, you know, they don't even bother stop making the pictures, you know, or slow them down if it's going too fast. They just, you know, they go, you know, they forget that they're making the pictures, right? And the trick is to get people to do it under their own control, their own rate, and then use the dialogue to set up a rhythm of the speed of which feels comfortable. Go, God, this is wonderful. I'm really enjoying this, you know, so that as they induce the altered state in themselves, you know, they might, you know, they get to have good feelings with it. Otherwise, you can get ab reactions. You know, I've had people like, so they're going back, do this like this, and then go into full body catalepsy and start shaking and stuff, you know, and then you know, and you have to lean over and go, relax, man, it's okay, will you? They go, oh, thank you, you know. It's like, you know, they go. I had one guy where we did a thing where we just made a slide, right? You know, that went down like instead of a straight